All right. So, good evening, everyone. Um, we are sorry for a little delay. We are supposed to start by 6 p.m., but had a little technical challenge which delayed us for like 14 minutes. But we are here today. Thank you so much for the patience. Thank you so much, guys. So, welcome to today's session. Welcome everybody. I want to welcome you all. So in today's session, so we are previous sessions we've looked at several aspects of tech challenges that are currently, confronting beginners and making it a bit hard for them to dive into their tech career, for them to make progress in tech career. Some persons reached out to me and they were like, we are a bit of confused on what to do. How is the industry? How what does it look like? Is it always rosy? Is it juicy? Some person are telling us that it's tough, it's hard, and all those stuff. So because of this, we are having sessions like this every Thursday, where we break and demystify a whole lot of misconceptions, and we also bring you to the right knowledge that you need to have in your career and also as you are developing your career. There is always the right knowledge. We're not promising you that there won't be challenges, but when you have the right knowledge, you know the right way to approach things, you know the right way to face challenges, and the right way to make the proper decision. Okay, so this is one of the sessions that will give you that opportunity, that knowledge, that proper information that you have, right? So we're diving into one of the most important topics for beginners in tech, right? Beginners ask these questions a lot: how to land your first job. So yeah, some persons started after 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and they're already getting frustrated because they don't know how to get a job. And some persons are looking out for, before starting, how am I sure I will get a job? So these are questions that resonate around, the tech field. So we know that breaking into tech can feel overwhelming between resume, portfolios, interviews, and the competition. So it often feels like the hardest step is just getting started when you want to get a job, when you want to build your portfolio to make it attractive. So, but today, our amazing speaker here, I'm going to introduce him. So he's going to help us break it down. He has many years of experience in recruitment and HR and around building portfolios and interviews as well. Okay. So from crafting resumes that actually get noticed to building portfolio, applying smartly and even handling interviews with confidence. Okay, so today's session we'll be looking at these aspects. We're going to be discussing them. So bring in your questions. Let me turn off the comment section. So if you have any question, if you have want to drop your questions, feel free to drop your questions, and we're going to attend to them before the end of the session. Right. So right here before us is our speaker, and he is Ayodeji Daramola. I believe I got it. Yeah, I believe I
Yeah.
got it. Okay, thank you so much. So he's the co-founder of Bamboo, right? So I've worked with him before. I've worked with Bamboo as a backend engineer. So he's a very nice person, very experienced, and he's willing. And I'm so happy and I feel honored that he's here with us to discuss this very important topic today from his busy schedule. Right. So for him to come here is a lot of sacrifice and we really appreciate it. So he has combined 10 years of experience in the HR and tech sector, spanning human resources, venture growth, and innovation across EMEA. So he's gonna tell us that EMEA. You see it a lot when you're applying for jobs. So you see it. So he holds a master degree in management with specialization in entrepreneurship and innovation from the Nova School of Business and Economics. So he's also a PhD candidate in management, specializing in innovation, technology, and artificial intelligence, and Nova SBE. So there is a lot about him, so I will also allow him to go in and introduce himself to you and tell us at least some of the things you do at Bumble as well. Okay, so people get to know what Bumble is all about. So yeah, over to you. Thank you.
So thank you again, Prince. It's a pleasure to be here. So
Yeah.
I think it's really important to kind of give a background and on the journey, right? I know, like you said, something that was really interesting about how at the beginning when you start, you don't really know a lot about a lot of things, and I would say
Yeah.
that that's a good place to start. Is the awareness that you don't know much, and that willingness to improve. It's super important, right? So a little bit about me. I was, I'm a Nigerian. I was raised and born in Nigeria, and I remember always wanting to know about entrepreneurship, to know about businesses, to understand how you do tech. And
Yeah.
even back then, and this is always a question I get a lot, that what do you do when you don't have a lot of resources? Growing up in Nigeria without a lot of resources. And I was always like, if you are quite curious, right? If you're
Hmm.
quite curious, you go looking for those opportunities, right? And that
Yeah.
that provides a perfect place to start, right? So I remember I always wanted to like go abroad for studies, and even before I left like high school, I was already looking at schools abroad that were offering programs that I could go do. And that was, part of the inspiration for me going for the masters in Portugal, doing the management, and also doing the PhD. And I think if we were to look at, in terms of the tech ecosystem, right, compared
Yeah.
to how it was like years ago, it's become very, very competitive, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
and for me, getting into tech or getting into recruitment was something I was always really interested in, right?
Mm.
Before leaving Nigeria, I worked a bit in some, people recruitment and human resource positions, right? And I was always passionate about being able to tell people that these are the things you can do to actually make something happen for you, right? And this is which is the
Yeah.
focus of the talk we're having today. So that's just a little bit of background. So what I'm doing now is with Bamboo. We co-founded it some years back, just shortly after COVID, and we focused back then on enabling young, smart talent, right, from countries like Nigeria to access global opportunities, right? So when we first started, we didn't have any tech stack or anything. We just started purely as a recruiting company, right? And we learned a lot, and we've learned a lot over the years. We've evolved, from being purely recruiting to becoming a job board, and then eventually to becoming an AI recruiting partner, and then where we are now, which is kind of like an AI/slash training partner for companies. And all through that journey has been really key lessons, right, I would, start considering right now. So the first is kind of like, what is the tech job landscape right now, right? And it's
Yeah.
pretty interesting, right? Because if we discussed it like 2 years ago, we would probably be saying something slightly
Yeah.
different, right? Because back then it was just ChatGPT just coming up, all of the AI tools were just coming up. Now it's completely different. I would say in 6 months or 1 year, it's going to be completely
It's
different, right?
everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. So what we've
Yeah.
had even I know there's also been some discussions even in the software engineering field that is it even worth going into software engineering,
Me too.
or machine learning
Exactly. Yeah.
again, right? Like, is this, or are there
Mm.
things that are still worth it? And I would say, like,
Mm.
definitely it's a career that is still very, very valuable. And not to just talk about engineers, right? Tech careers on average, right, are becoming much more ubiquitous with the way we do stuff, with the way we do things, with the way we learn. Right? So breaking in is, I would say, much more harder now. It's much more harder now.
Yeah.
Landing that first job in tech is quite often the hardest step, right? And there's a
Mm.
lot of often bad bad thoughts, bad ideas that people tend to have. You probably, when you were trying to get yours as well, you got a lot of pushback, like,
Of
hey,
course.
it's
Of
impossible for
course.
you to
Yeah.
do or to get this. And I would say, like, the first one is kind of, people always say, oh yeah, you need some kind of experience, right? You need
Hmm.
some kind of
Hmm.
experience to get the job. In some ways, right, that might be true, right? But I think the most and the core of what it is you need just practical knowledge,
Mm.
right? So It might not be experience in a normal facing job, right? Because if you've never been employed before, you're not going to have experience working in a startup or working in a company, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of things that you can show as practical knowledge based or project based expertise, right? So as a very early stage, early career professional who is just going into tech, that is kind of like the route to go. And it's
Wow.
always simple. So to give an
Mm.
example in this case, right? Let's say
Yeah.
backend engineer. It's
Okay.
super important that you could have said, okay, in school there was a lot of student associations. So I went around to each of those associations asking them, hey, do you need a website? I can do your
Mm-hmm.
website for you. I will design the backend, and you can have it
Mm-hmm.
online, right? It might not
Mm-hmm.
be paid, it might not
Yeah.
really bring in a lot of resources, right? But those are
Mm-hmm.
active things, right? And not a lot of people do that, right? Because at the beginning, everyone wants to get some kind of compensation. And I'm not saying getting compensation for what you're trying to do is bad, right? But it's very important at first to optimize for gaining the key skills that will get you hired, right? So something else that is also quite good to consider for early stage, like when you've never even gotten your first job, is what kind of skills are crucial to know and to have, right? So typically, when you graduate, for example, it's not often the case, but computer science in some schools or universities in Nigeria is they have some defective or older courses, right? So those courses might not be as advanced or might not be as regular or as
Yeah.
updated as what is being used in the market. So there is always a particular part where you have to learn skills on your own. So either you do AWS Essentials, Google Essentials, you
Yeah.
go on Udemy, you do skills. I know definitely Prince would have some things to say about that. Like on your own, how many skills have you learned outside of the four walls of school?
Mm.
So it's very important
It's not.
to be
It's
able to
not.
do
It's.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you saying something?
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, no. You proceed. I mean, I'm just in affirmation to what you're saying. I said,
Okay,
yeah, that's
okay,
true.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
guess the best way then to say is first is understand the key skills that will show to any company, right? When you go for interview, that this is the right person to take a chance on, right? So one place is key skills, the other is practical skills, practical project based skills, right? And the last, which is often really underestimated, is soft skills, right? So, soft skills in terms of
Mm.
communication, right? Are you able to communicate? Are you able to get along in a team, right? Are you able to effectively explain your ideas? Are you able to effectively provide feedback? Are you somebody who is able to excel working with others? Are you able to take instruction and be able to run with it with minimal feedback, right? All of that are things that, especially soft skills, are things that you learn as you do, right? You might not know them at first, right? So typically a practical example, right, for soft skills is get involved in something that involves maybe a tech ecosystem, right? Volunteer your time, volunteer to participate or to contribute to an open source project. If you are a data analyst, volunteer to maybe gather data for a student association. There's a lot of practical things that would, update your resume. And I think that leads us possibly very perfectly to the second one, right? Which is the curriculum vitae or the CV, right? That is a very crucial thing, right? Because a lot of people do not really pay attention to that, right? And I understand that sometimes you don't have the time to write a resume that actually is very good. But in most cases, I always tell people, and I think also Prince understood this when he worked, a little bit in the recruiting and resourcing area, that most recruiters have a limited amount of time to scan through the CV or the resume, right? And that's if they're not using an ATS. An ATS is an applicant tracking system, which is what any recruiter uses in a big enough organization to first look through the CV. And what those ATSs do is they look for the keywords, right? So those keywords that match the key skills or the requirements that the recruiter is looking for in that position, right? Most people do not optimize their CVs at all to provide key information. So in 20 seconds, a recruiter looks at just the first page. In most cases, it's always better. The shorter, the better. The concise, the better. So on maximum in Europe, for example, the standard is one CV, one page CV. Right? And it's even a great exercise for everybody to have. Can you can you put all your experience into a single page? If you can do that, that is a wonderful
Yeah.
exercise to be able to go straight to the point. So the key thing
Mm.
is, what are you doing currently, right? What are the
Okay.
key skills you have, right? Those key skills should match with the job you're applying for, right? So, tech stacks, for example, let's consider a machine learning engineer. You should have at least PyTorch, you should have some understanding of cloud, cloud environments if you're going to be using compute or not. You should have some ability to do a little bit of maybe CI/CD pipelines if you're going to be setting up ML for the organization. So each of those things are exactly what is said on the JD. Show the equivalent skills on your resume. So basically, they want you to know. They want to know the resume shows you that, hey, I have found the candidate that I need for this position, right? So most people, like, maybe the first experience you list is maybe an experience from 2002 or 2002 or 2022. There is no there's no point in like not being as current and as updated. Sometimes we speak with some talent and they're like, oh yeah, sorry, I've not updated my CV in like 2 years because I'm currently in a position. While that is understandable, that it's not that great a practice. So
Mm.
for somebody who's just getting into tech, and even for mid senior, it's very very
Yeah.
it's very important to understand that every company that is looking to hire is taking a chance in the job market, and they are basically looking for uh, things that would convince them that whoever they find is the best fit for that position, right? And so, in terms of optimizing, it's like, what are you doing now? What key
Okay.
skills do you have? Those skills should be related to the position that opening. What experience do
Okay.
you have? And those experience should also be related. If it's not related, just show what exactly you did. So sometimes we see CVs like, I was a backend engineer. Just the name of the
Mm.
company. Sometimes they don't even say the year. Sometimes they say the year. That's it. And then it's like, of course, everybody could say they're a backend engineer. What did you do? A,
Yeah.
a perfect
Yeah.
example, if you were in charge of the infrastructure, you helped, and you managed, or you were in part of a team of seven reporting to a boss. Just say, we managed this project. These were the project outcomes. These were the pipelines involved. Just the key points. And then after that, you can just put key skills used or key stacks worked with. You can say, okay, we work with Vessel, we work with AWS for the back end. We work with Postgres or PostOrg for issue monitoring. So for that job, they see what you did, they see what the team size is, and they see the skills that you use for that particular project. And then the next one is, oh, I was the engineering manager at AWS Lagos. Okay, so this is a project. This project was to provision an online environment to simulate healthcare emergencies for the Lagos state government. I managed a team of seven. It took three months. These were their outcomes or objectives. This was the key skills. At most, that's two or three lines. That is basically everything needed. So in the interview, basically what you've done is you provided a storyline or a narrative that the person who is speaking with you, like, is going to ask you about, right? So you know already
Yeah.
around
Yeah.
what places the questions will come from. So it's very simple. Now,
Yeah.
a question you would ask is, of course, you're mentioning really great examples, but I don't have any experience. I've not really worked, anywhere. Fine. Did you ever work in a student organization? Did you get involved in a student organization? Maybe not. Did you build a project for any of your friends? Maybe not. Did you do something? If you didn't have that, then go out and get that and put it on your CV. Nobody is going to, as a recruiter, there's no one, or no, of course, not discounting a few bad eggs, but there's no recruiter that is going to talk down on you as a very, very young professional for you showing that you have the ability to go out and seek opportunities to try to do things and to try to produce things, right? And even if you are maybe you're in a
mm,
place where there's not people that you can build things for, build sample projects, build sample
wow.
projects. So,
Yeah.
for example,
Yeah.
just design something, right? Okay, your church, right? Maybe they are never going to have a website. Just design a website for them, right? Design a bike, set it up, make it accessible, and put that on your resume, right? So, if I was in the last final year of my school and I needed, I'm a UI UX designer, okay? So I designed, let's just design an alternative website for my school. I know all the faculties, I know all of that. So I'm just going to do a sample project. You can use any AI tool, you can use all of that and just show your learnings, right? Show your learnings and put that there. These are the tech skills I use, these are the stuffs I use, and put the link. If you have access to GitHub, put your GitHub profile on there, and that way you are validating for the employer that you are able to learn without even having done a job in the first place. So I could go on and on with practical steps and practical tips, but I would
Yeah.
say the most important thing is what I've seen people get tend to get stuck in is they tend to accept whatever everybody else is saying, right? And they accept whatever
Mm,
everybody else is saying that, oh, there are no jobs out there. It's really difficult to do this. It's really difficult to do this. Of course, it's difficult, right? It's very, very complicated now to get a job anywhere, especially in tech, because there's just so much junior professionals. People are leaving coding camps every week. People are getting more interested in this area because it's relatively lucrative compared to other career choices, right? So you're literally competing with people all over the world. For example, remote job positions are some of the most competitive in the world, right? And you have to understand that anything that would move the needle for you, do it. You just have to do it. And I think also an additional thing to add in with regards to, well, before we move on from the applications and resume, is that you learn to know that no is not the end of the journey, right? So I get people who get very frustrated,
yeah.
right? Oh, I applied for 10 jobs, they didn't get back
Yeah.
to me. I
Yeah.
applied for 50 jobs, they didn't get back to me. For example, an average opening that we make in Bamboo, even though we're very small, or we were a very small company, if we open the position, we'll get like something like 120 applications for just a single position. For example, we recently opened an intern positions, we get over at least over 100, right? It's almost impossible to know that we would be able to individually meet with all of those people. So definitely there will be a few people who will be disappointed. Get used to accept that no might be the default. All you just need is just one yes, right? So you persevere until you get that yes, and that's often what makes the difference, right? So, case in point,
Wow.
even though I was not a tech professional at the beginning, right? I was not a foundational coding co-founder. I was a non-tech or no code
Yeah.
founder
Yeah.
because my skills were more in management and operations. At least I remember applying to over 200 positions, at least, just to start with, right? Now it's more like it's a
Yeah.
game plan. So if you don't have a job, you wake up every day and you turn job applications to a job, right? You make it a job for
Yeah.
you. You turn it, you have a game
Mm,
plan. I wake up in the morning, I'm going to do my CV. So from now till for the next 4 or 5 hours, I'm going to be working on job applications. And you keep going and you keep going until you secure one, and that is what it
yeah.
takes. So I would stop there on tips so that we can have some time later for questions, just in case there might be.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
Okay. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So I think there are no questions in the comment sections, but prior to this session, we've had people coming in to ask us some questions of, you know, what they would like us to discuss and what they would like us to talk about in today's session. So probably so many of them maybe not online right now, but they're going to have to rewatch this later just to get the knowledge that was shared. Okay. So I appreciate the last few statements you made, specifically with getting the key skills. So it is very important to know that from your explanation that, okay, there are skills and there are key skills. There are key skills that needs to be in your resume. There are expectations for every resume. It's not just about saying I've done this. Is it relevant to the job you are trying to apply for? Okay, so for beginners, I think you need to understand the, like you mentioned, understanding the requirements of the job, and also understanding how much it can match with the current experience you have. So as you know, people come into my inbox, and they ask us questions like, I'm a beginner and I've not worked anywhere before. So how do you expect me to get an experience? How do you expect me to get a very reasonable experience? And you just mentioned it, that you get out there and look for something to do. If it's your church, if it's your school, if it's your friend, you don't need to take money for that. I mean, you are looking out for something that will give you a real life experience. All you need to do is to build something and make it happen in your CV, right? Allow it appear in your CV, and these are the things that recruiters want to get. So, from the discussion so far, we've been able to understand that, okay, there are stages to these things. You don't just wake up and you want to apply for a job. Yes, you have to take time to learn. When you are done learning, you need to go out there and get experience by whichever means you are getting the experience. If you have maybe internship opportunities, good. But if you don't have opportunities, yeah, he just mentioned that the job market is very competitive right now. People are leaving boot camps. People are leaving dev houses every day, getting the skill in tech, trying to do one or two things about acquiring their skill in tech. But you can always stand out with your projects. It's project that stands people out. So I've done this. How much have you been able to apply what you have learned over the weeks, over the months, in solving real life problem? And this is very key in having them right into your portfolio. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. So we have looked at several um, points right now about crafting this, the resume that gets attention. And I think one of the major things you've mentioned is having your project, having your experience of what you have done in the first few lines. I mean, where the recruiters can just go through and see them without having to read through a whole long, story just to get your CV. So keeping it short, keeping your CV short and precise is very, very important. So yeah, thank you. So let's look at the next question, right? So because someone has uh let's say you have a CV, gone through CV processes, right? The process of writing is maybe you have some few experiences. It is junior, like you said, hit you, or nobody's gonna insult you because you don't have so much experience. There's always a starting, right? So now, for someone who has the experience, or maybe has some few experience, and is applying for, let's say, junior role, okay, or is looking out to, role that the person wants to apply for, we've come to accept that there are a lot of competitions coming in. So are there like smart ways of applying for jobs? Okay. So how can a beginner really, let's say, are there things you can leverage, maybe your network, LinkedIn, and all those stuff, personal branding? What are the best ways to approach job applications? Yeah.
Okay, okay. Thank you very much. So I think before I paused about halfway, which was the crafting
Okay.
a resume that gets attention, and I think it's better
Okay.
to first go from the tech portfolio that stands out, then we go to how you apply with the tech portfolio, right? Because I think thinking about the portfolio
Okay.
before application, it makes sense. So for
Application. All
somebody
right.
who's
Okay.
just
Okay.
starting, right? What should a tech portfolio look like? Um, so I'm going to talk about somebody who's just starting at a mid-career professional. So for somebody who's just starting, I always say that it's super important to understand what is going on in your sector. It's very simple. Um, a case in point, I was speaking with a UI UX designer, very junior, just started learning about, went to design school and was asking, okay, and I was like, so what do you think you need to do to show people that you are an up and coming UI UX designer? He was like, I'll send my CV. I'm like, that's okay. But for UI UX designer, case in point, the most important thing that everybody in your life must have about you is your portfolio, right? And your portfolio is your design portfolio. And they're like, oh, how can I have a portfolio if I'm just starting? I've not done any work for any client. I'm like, fine. The fact that you do a work for a client, the only reason why that is important for anybody that cares about is because you got paid for it, right? Regardless of whether you are the client or not, you still have your abilities to go out and do like a sample project, right? So if you,
Yeah.
for example, just take the time, just do a sample project once a week, all right, take a full week, a few days, build a sample project, think of something challenging that would actually, stretch you a little bit. By the time you go through 4 or 5 weeks, that's like 4 or 5 sample projects. You do one sport, you do one game, you do one media, you do one newspaper, you do one, design, design branding for a startup. By the end, like anyone who comes to your portfolio, even if you don't say this is a client, they can literally see how good you are. And it's the same principle for every professional. Are you a data analyst or a data scientist? Get a sample data set online, analyze it, right? Use B Power, use statistics, use Starter, SPSS, whatever tool you use, right? Analyze it, show the insights, and present the insights in infographics that you can share on X, right? That which raises a very important point. A lot of people are also like, "Oh, I don't know how to use social media." It's very simple. Social media is quite saturated, obviously, but a really great fit for tech professionals is X, right? Of course, it went down slightly over the past years, and I think now it's coming up again. X, in some cases, also known as Twitter, is a great place, right? You can literally find some of the best engineers in your field, some of the best designers, some of the best data analysts in your field, talking about their work every day. Engage with that. If you see like a really cool guy doing design, he did something amazing. Sometimes they would show you or they will explain what they did. Try to emulate it, post it on your page, right? That is a wonderful way to actually start trying to do what they're doing, right? By mimicking what the professionals in your field are doing. And that is a good way to actually build a tech portfolio. You start by doing sample projects, right? And so it actually doubles back to what I said before because there was also a question that how can a beginner show their skills without professional work experience? The only part that makes it a professional work experience is somebody paid you and they gave you a job, right? And they pay you to do stuff. Nothing stops you
Mhm.
from doing the same project that you would have done if somebody wasn't paying you for it. The only thing you think about is I'm building this as evidence of the skills I have. Typically, it's very simple. All interviews, all things you go for is the investigation into your ability to do the job you claim that you can do, right? So if you have
Yeah.
actually built
Yeah.
a lot of projects and there's evidence of that, it reduces the plausibility or it improves the possibility that you will get hired for that role. And that's it, right? So and then I also saw a question that what kind of project impress recruiters the most? It's very simple. What can you build within your capacity? Within your capacity, what is relevant for your field, right? So I've talked about a lot about doing
Yeah.
sample projects. It's also important to do sample projects that make sense, right? Don't go and build a project in a language that is not used, in a stack that is not used by your sector. That doesn't work, right? Because for example, now backend development, which is kind of Prince's area, has evolved slowly, right? There was a point in time where the main stacks were maybe Java, to some extent, C++ is still being used in a lot of places, which is good, not to dunk down on any programming language. But now, like, there's been some moves, a lot of moves towards, newer ones, right? Newer languages that are more common, right? So you need to know that and build projects that show your skills in that. So if you are just starting to learn, for example, I don't know, any of the newer stacks, try to build something in it, something small. So what it does is beyond saying, oh, I have a certificate in this, this certificate enabled me to build this project, right? And that's it. So how
Yeah.
do you apply this smart way, right? Not just sending CVs everywhere. For early stage, is it better to apply to 100 jobs over online or focus on a few strategic roles? I would say it depends on your personality, right? The problem with applying to a lot of places, even though it's something I would say with much more, with being more early stage is something that perhaps you don't have any choice but to do, is that you have less time to personalize your application for each role, right? So something that is very, very important is what exactly are you skilled at doing, right? If you are skilled as a junior back end engineer, right, and you have specific 4 or 5 stacks that you can say I am good at, right, and you find openings in that role listing those stacks and those openings are 50, sure, go ahead, right? Because basically you're expanding your lock surface area. The role matches what you can do. It's in the position that you have the skills for, right? And it will not take you much time between each of those roles because typically you just have to customize the cover letter. If they ask for a cover letter, in most cases your CV would probably be the same, right? Except you need some additional review tweaks left and right. But why that is important is you see, I said same role, same skills, same requirements, and you match all of those, right? Typically, what people do when they say I'm applying to a lot of roles is roles that you are not a fit for. It's clear in the job description that this is not something you can do. You apply for them. Roles that it's too senior for you. You don't have any of the tech stack listed on the job application. You just applying because you have the hope that it's game, don't go for it. So that would not be a good idea because you're just wasting your time and you're wasting stuff. Now, it's also important to know that there's not all rules that you should not be ambitious, right? So, for example, if they are looking for somebody that has at least 1 year of experience and you don't have any experience, right? You have some of the tech stacks listed and it's a role in your position. So, for example, you're a junior ML engineer, you have some of the tech stacks, they're looking for 1 year of experience, you have 0 years of experience. Go ahead and try. It's good to be ambitious, right? It's good to try. In that sense, there's a realistic chance of you getting in, right? But if it's clear that it's a role for a senior engineer with 90% of the tech stacks you don't have, and you don't even have 1 year of experience, not to talk of 5 years of experience, that is a bit of a stretch, right? So the best thing is to understand when you go beyond the tipping point of realistic and ambitious, and then what is like you're just wasting your time. And so that's a great rule of thumb, depending on what particular circumstances that you're in. Networking opportunities online. Follow the people doing cool stuff in your area. We're in the age of vibe coding, as they say, right? The age of AI. What that allows you to do
Yeah.
is build cool projects that you can post online that make sense to people, right? So a lot of posts I see, especially on LinkedIn, are very boring, right? You say, "Oh, I beat the website," but you just put a link, you put a page, you put a few words, and you go ahead. No one is going to read that, right? You have to think of ways in which, when you post something, as a rule of thumb is, if I see this on somebody else, it comes up that somebody else did it. Would I read it? Would I watch it? Would it make sense, right? Because you're competing for attention. For X, it's slightly different, right? X is if you make it fun, right? You vibe code it, you make it fun, and you say, I managed to build this in 1 day. Definitely will attract attention, right? Find people doing things in your area. That is very, very important. If you see somebody that you really look up to, for example, you're a product manager, you're following Straya. Straya is a really popular Apple and Meta PM. He posts a lot of things. Try to get engaged in a conversation. LinkedIn, it doesn't happen as much. X, people reply, right? Say something cool. Say something, make post, engage, try to get into the circle of what is happening in your sector. That is how people slowly know you. 2 3 months of engaging or posting stuff or seeing something on, maybe you see a designer, he does something, you try to replicate it, you can just put his name that this was inspired by this person, you can tag his account. After like 2 or 3 weeks of you doing it, maybe one day we'll leave a comment on your page. That you don't need anything beyond that. Don't be a pest, right? I know people, there's a lot of people, because you like someone, you go, you bombard them with messages, you don't let them breathe. It's very, very important to be a very nice and approachable person. The problem with social media is everybody gets a lot of spam messages, right? So it might not necessarily be that somebody ignores you, just be that there's a lot on their plate. If you are doing cool things, they will take notice of you. That is the most simplest trick to getting to networking online. If you are doing cool things, people will take notice. And how do you do cool things? Think of something fun, right? Build a game, for example, vibe code a game with codex, vibe code again with any of the no code tools, cursor, um, any of the ones, any of the front end code, vibe code a project, in your area. Post it online. Say something cool about it. Today I'm working on this, so and so, so and so. Make a post. Like this was inspired by somebody, and then you can put a really nice. Oh, do you want to try the game? Try the game, yeah. People will come and try, and that is it, right? So
Yeah.
how you get people to notice you is you do cool things, right? And that's how you land opportunities, right? And then when you are doing that, then you will slowly see, especially when you're one of the reasons, which is another point, one of the reasons why being connected to your ecosystem is important is you're going to see people making posts about opportunities, especially on X. You just see somebody come online, he doesn't have a tag, he doesn't have a picture, maybe he has 40,000 followers. We will just say, we're looking for an intern in data science. If you would like, you just send me a DM, send a link, and you go there. Go there and try. Sometimes it's just about that. Maybe they will not even check your CV, they just check your X profile, your Twitter profile, and they see something nice. Now, this person has been doing 20 projects over the past 2 months. You have your GitHub link on your profile. You don't have any job, but you've had a GitHub link and it shows that you've been coding every day. You have some cool contributions to open source projects. They'll be happy to invite you for like an interview. I'll just speak with you. Even if you're going to get the role, right? You're putting yourself out there, you're increasing your luck success area. And that works, right? So that is, and personal branding. Of course, it's the same. It's basically you're creating that perception online that you are somebody who is junior, but who is learning, who is trying things, and who is not complaining. You need to do stuff to. That's how you stand out. Because even a no code founder right now can build a website. It might not be the greatest website, but it works. What separates
Yeah.
you from that person is they've actually tried to do something and they built it, and people can see it and people can click it. So that is it for the connections, for the social media, for applying. You have to have those things together, and together they increase your luck success area. Cracking the interview.
Wow.
All of the things I've said, right, are really, really beautiful for setting you up for an interview. I talked about the resume, I talked about increasing your luck success area, how you manage social media, how you develop projects, how you build a portfolio. If you've done those
Yeah.
things well, if you've done those things well, the best way to prepare for an interview is think about what you've been doing, right? And think about the fact that that person wants to know you and know why you've been doing the things you have been doing, right? So look into the company, right? A lot of people I've seen, you invite them for an interview, they don't know anything about the company, they don't ask any questions. Uh, they are not able. I know sometimes, depending on the area where you are, your network might not be great. You might have issues with your camera, you might have issues with your mic. But in most cases, always let those issues be maybe things that you could not have solved, right? So sometimes as we are calls, maybe you drop off the line because something happened, an emergency, that's fine. But you should never know that you're going to have an interview that is very important to you and not have looked for alternatives. Maybe leave home if you know there's not going to be light or the electricity is bad. Maybe go to a cyber cafe if it's not possible. I think it might be loud. Try to go for a co-working space, Find somewhere that is at least somewhat okay, where you can be stable and get 30 minutes or 1 hour of conversation. Most interviews don't go beyond 1 hour, except you're doing a coding review, right? It's super basic, but you wouldn't know how many people faithful to that, right? They come, super online, and tech interviews are not. They don't expect you to wear a suit or to wear a tie. You can be reasonably well dressed, right? But some, you can tell that some join a big no-no. Some join interviews on the phone, on the mobile phone, right? It's it's not like there's anything bad with it, but given the abundance of talent on the market, you do not want to mess up your chances, right? Because I promise you, if there's a lot of competing factors on the ground, you have to make sure that you remove all extraneous factors and make sure the only fact left is things that you cannot control. For example, if admittedly you have a laptop, it collapsed, or for some reason you could not do it, it's okay. You can maybe use that as a valid excuse, right? But then the other thing would be that you could easily have spoken with a friend, you could easily have gone to your neighbor, you could easily have just in your place make as much effort as you can to manage your environment, right? Just like
Yeah.
it, it's very, very simple. If people cannot trust that you will take an interview important, how would they trust that, for example, and this happens a lot in distributed remote roles, if you cannot turn up for the interview on time, or your network is bad, or you join in your phone, and you promise them that you're going to be working every day while they are paying you, you've already failed the first test, right? So the other is everyone always gets nervous about interviews because they say, "Oh, tell me about yourself." Okay, it's very, very simple. Tell me
Yeah.
about yourself is not. I'm not inviting you to make mistakes. I'm inviting you to tell me about yourself and the cool things you've been doing. Remember the point about building a portfolio, trying exciting projects, doing cool stuff, and sharing your stuff online. If you have been doing that, you're going to have a lot of things to say. So typically, what tends to happen is some things you have done, you don't even think that is interesting to mention. Mention them, right? We want to know, a recruiter wants to know about the challenges you faced while applying for the job. Um, what projects you did in anything you did, right? If you did a volunteer project, was it cool? Were you able to deliver? Was the stack easy to? What engineering challenges did you face, right? So when you
Hmm.
get slightly technical, it shows that okay, this person is just not talking about vibes. They actually did this thing and he knows about it, right? And
Yeah,
that is it.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is it. So in any case, tell me about yourself. Actually focuses on that. Like, what have you done? Right? Don't tell me I worked at. No, of course. It's on your CV. You worked 2 years at this place. Fine. What were you doing? That is what tell me about yourself is. What were you doing? What are your motivations for getting into tech, right? Why did you pick this career? Is it because you love designing? Is it because you love coding? Is it because you love analysis? Is it because you love video? Is it because you like research as a researcher analyst? Whatever. Think about that, have a narrative and practice a lot. If you are somebody who is very nervous, if you're somebody who doesn't have social skills, you're not sure, type into ChatGPT. We have all have AI. I'm
Yeah.
applying for a job. I'm going for an interview. Give me a sample of questions that would come up. This is the JD. You can download the JD, put it for ChatGPT. It will give you sample questions. Get a friend, your mom, your parents, your girlfriend, whatever, anybody in your life. Just speak and let them listen to you. As you're speaking, you would hear what you're saying, and you get better. So you practice and you practice and you practice and you practice. It costs you nothing. And that is how you improve, right? So there is no need for you to cram talking points, right? Because you already know what you've done. And the things you've done is what you will say. You just make sure you say it in a way that is clear that you have the skills needed for the job. So I'll combine what recruiters looking for beyond technical skills and how do you handle tough interview questions when you don't know the answer, right?
Mm.
What are they looking for beyond technical skills? They want to know that you're curious, right? Like we mentioned about, building projects. Why did you build projects? You don't have a job. Why did you work on sample? Why did you build your portfolio? Right? So if you can demonstrate that, Why did you decide to join a volunteering for an open source project online, right? Why did you decide to build the website for your church for free? You communicated, you convinced the church authorities to actually get the website for free. That is a sign of communication. That is a sign of collaboration. Did you join a community meetup, hangout? Were you a coordinator? Did you set things up? It shows that you can work with people. So those are examples, the best
Yeah.
examples you can provide within your limited scope of the things you're capable of, right? Hard questions. With an hard question, one thing I've seen people start to do is sometimes we show too much about the things we don't know anything about, right? Or we try to show that, so and so, so and so. It's okay as a young or middle stage professional to say, I don't know much about this yet, right? But it's something I'm currently learning about, right? Just as I have learned about this skill I have now, and I've gotten really good at it in the past 1 year. I couldn't work with REST APIs before. In the past 1 year, I learned about REST APIs, and the past 6 months, I've done 5 projects with REST API. Now I'm also learning about AI and codecs. I started learning it now. So if it follows the same path as I did with REST APIs, I'll be able to actually work in this area and I'll be able to do a lot of things there. That's a great answer, right? It shows that you know that you have limitations. You accept that you have limitations, but it doesn't stop you from learning about what they're talking about. And that's it. So it doesn't mean, of course, so there's two things. It doesn't mean that you don't have skills for the job, right? So that's one thing. If you have skills for the job, you'll be able to say something. If you don't have an answer, that's fine, as long as it's relating to skills. We can validate you have skills for the job. But if you somehow manage to get an interview for a job you are not skilled for and you're not equipped for, obviously all the questions they are going to ask you, you will not know anyone, right? But it's impossible that it's an interview in an area that you say you're skilled for, that you'll not be able to answer at least the majority of the questions. So a few questions you're not sure about is fine. You can just say, hey, I've not worked with this before. I know a little bit about it. If it needs for me to work with it, I can work with it because this is how I learn, and it's not a difficult thing. And that's a great rule of thumb for working with things. So,
Wow.
and now final section. I know we're getting to the end. Mindset and career growth, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
talked especially about rejection. I already mentioned about rejection. I said get used to rejection. That is normal. Okay. How should beginners handle it? Just see it as something that is a part of life. Even when you go and you go and you go, like the more you go in your career, you will get rejections. Maybe it reduces the more senior you become, right? At the early stage, everyone is going for the same things you're going for. There's not much difference between you and someone, comparably about 500 to 800,000 graduates every year in Nigeria. Let's say 7 to 80,000 of those are professionals. It could be software engineering, it could be, in IT, whatever. It is very, very important for you to know that the most likely thing that will happen will be a no, right? The most likely thing you will get will be a no. So just know before you even apply that you know it's a no probably, right?
Yeah.
What you are optimizing for is to get a yes. Okay. So I see somebody asking about IT. So for example, IT, right? IT is very broad, which is in information technology, right? IT entry level role. So, for example, if you're an IT support engineer, right? So, support engineers are quite common in Dubai. IT support engineer. The first thing you have to think about is what if you're getting a lot of notes in your application? What are they looking for? Right? On every job description, there is maybe they're asking you to have Windows support essentials. You need to have an ITL certificate, international. IT council, some technical skills. You should be able to do some troubleshooting for device. Whatever. Do you have those? Right? Tick, 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 tick. If you don't have those, what do you need to do to get them? Right? The more you add those things to your IT portfolio, the lesser it is that you probably will get a rejection, right? So at some point, you are going to go over the line, in which case that you are going to be able to do a lot. So I guess the next thing then would be if if I were to give advice to a younger me, with regards to tech job role, right, would be that it's basically the same thing I said, right? Um, Rejection is normal, right? For younger professionals, for early stage, even mid level, that is normal. What you need to optimize for is to stand out from the crowd, right? Everybody says, "Oh, there's no tech job." For example, if you're still in Nigeria, Nigeria is really difficult. It's really tough. There's no positions and all things. That's okay. What you need to do is change your story from the common line that everybody else is saying. And how do you change your story? By following some of the things. So do do cool stuff, right? Do sample projects, do complicated projects if you can. If you can't and it fails, post those failures online. Say this is where I developed it though. This is where I got an error. This is why I failed, and this is
Mm,
what this is what I'm looking to get. Right. And that way it is that you're already trying to improve yourself and you stand out. So that would be the one advice, right? That you stand out. Find ways to stand out because everybody else is the same at you, and those are the people that you're competing against. So what
no.
skills should beginners focus on from now that would matter 5 years from now?
Mm-hmm.
AI,
Mm-hmm.
right? And in the age of AI, knowledge production has shifted a little bit, right? And it shifted because a lot of the early stage, which is why beginners are struggling a lot of the early stage skills have been somewhat taken over by AI coding tools, right? So, for example, and in this case, I'm talking about software development in general, right? In particular, you have Cursor, you have Codex, you have Replete, you have Lovable, all of those, that a no founder, no code founder, no code entrepreneur, angel, boot camper, whatever, can throw up a project in one day, right? So it's super important for you to be able to say, I know how to deploy AI in the execution of my project, be it
Mm-hmm.
ID, be it backend, be it front end, right? You need to
Mm-hmm.
know how to deploy AI whereby it's important for you in terms of production, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what it becomes is if you're able to do things faster, better, and more efficiently than everybody else that you're competing against, then you're well on the way. So learn what are the advances being made in your area. Have you ever tried Lovable? Have you tried Cursor? Have you tried IDEs? Have you tried MCPs, model context protocols? Have you tried to build an AI agent that will do tasks for you? Have you ever tried to build a PR reviewer? A lot of amazing tools that are happening right now, right? So the best paid engineers will not be the ones that are able to really cool the load, but the ones that are able to think of the resources they have and to deploy them for the best advantage while still protecting a good knowledge of infrastructure. Because if it fails, if the infrastructure fails, if anything fails, then you'll be the one that still has to hold everything together, right? So right now, for professionals, IT, data analysts, data science, whatever, you are the man in the middle. So optimizing your ability to use AI in your field is going to be the game changer in this age that we are, right? And that is what should be that should be what should be pursued at this point in time.
Mm.
So
Yeah. Wow. 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 That's a whole lot. That's a whole lot. And I must confess that you are giving so much value within this short time. I'm telling you, because all the questions that we've have come across our table, our desk, you've literally given an answer to them. Okay, so people complaining about how do I apply for a job without a skill. So you don't need to get a job to get a skill. You heard all he said. You can always start for yourself, look out for a problem and solve it. A problem around the skill you have learned, a problem around what you are doing. If you're a web developer, if you are doing web development, go out there, build any website for anybody, even if they don't need it. You can do it and push it online. Thank God for a lot of resources online. There are a lot of free cloud infrastructures that you can use online, Netlify, you have a set, you have so many of them where you can put in your website for free. You don't need to pay to get it there. All you need to do is invest time and build them. All right. So you see it, you don't need money to get experience. You don't need a job to gain experience. Experience is free for you as long as you are willing to go out there and solve a problem. And it's very, very important from what he has explained to us. Very important that you have an experience in your CV, all right, in your portfolio. Have a portfolio with experience. And he mentioned something very important. The question of tell me about yourself is not saying where you have worked, it's about saying what you have done and what you are doing. So all these things boils down to practicals. It boils down to how much you can defend and show that you are competent to do something. You may not be an expert. Of course, nobody is expecting that you should be perfect, but at least there should be progress around what you have been doing. And this is a whole lot, I'm telling you. So if you apply all the steps like you mentioned, if you've been going around building project, trying to work on something, it will not be a hard question for you to answer and tell any recruiter about yourself. Just go directly to what you have been doing for the last 1 month, the last 2 months, 3 months. Start saying them, and that's what he's expecting to hear and understand. So guys, see, we have learned a whole lot in this session, a whole lot. And no matter where you are, the same system applies, the same approach applies. Are you a designer? Are you going into data analysis? Are you doing IT? Someone mentioned being in IT. Are you going into product design? Are you going into content writing? Are you going into social media management? Whatsoever skill or whatsoever area of tech you're exploring, there is always a way for you to do something that nobody can even pay you for. I mean, nobody's paying you for, but you need to get something done. Practice, 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 and don't be mute. He mentioned going online, saying, giving, doing a progress report of what you have been doing online. So you go on LinkedIn. I tried out ABC today, and these are the challenges I face. This is what I'm trying to do. Sometimes you find people who will be willing to engage your conversation. Maybe they look at it. There are so many persons having the same conversation, having the same challenge. They can come in, and that's how it works, right? So you don't keep it to yourself. Keep your progress active, post about it, talk about it, share it online, join people in such conversation. Also, when you have people making conversation about what you are doing, also try to drop in some piece about it, right? So thank you so much. Like, we have a whole lot. So if you can apply this, starting from whenever you are done with your tech jobs or tech training, right? You go out and look for experience, document your experience both online and in your portfolio. Take the documentation to any interview. That's practically what this means. Take the documentation to any interview, and when you keep trying, you're going to land a job, right? So it doesn't happen one day, it doesn't happen 2 days. No is not a roadblock. It's actually part of the encouragement that you get and part of the challenges you face that you need to solve. So when you get a no, there's always the next job that you get. All you need to do is to persist and keep applying, keep trying, and don't stop uh, grabbing experiences like building projects, making practical, taking practical actions that could give you real life experiences. So thank you so much. I think we've all had a lot of conversation around this, and I think some persons do also ask this question: what's the difference between a CV, a portfolio, and a resume, and which one is the best to apply for a job? So what's the difference? Are they the same, or is there like differences? Are there like unique abilities in each one, or possibly what's the best among these, and which one should a beginner start with?
So it's a relatively straightforward thing, right? So whoever has a job opening would ask you for something, right? So in most cases, whatever they ask for is written there. Like, oh, we want a portfolio plus resume. We want a CV. In most cases, the term CVs and resumes are used interchangeably depending on which region you are, right? The term themselves are used interchangeably, but in most cases, it's they ask for one, right? So, for example, a CV is typically longer, right? So it's typically longer. It has more experience, it has more things, right? And in some cases, depending on the country, they mean both, right? So, what would happen is if you're applying for a job, if you're applying for a designer role, they most likely will not have for a CV. They would ask, please put your portfolio and your dribble. So dribble is something that designers use where you put the lot of designs you've done and all of that. They would ask for that. And they would ask for maybe your Figma, whatever. That's it for a designer, right? Data analyst, maybe they might ask for your cargo leaderboard, your cargo repository, plus your resume on your CV. Right. So in most cases, it's very, very easy to that. It's not confusing. They will not ask for your CV and your resume. So it's interchangeable, right? And it's basically the same. In for all intent and purposes, for early stage positions, nobody is going to they're not going to stress you out about that. You don't have
Yeah.
a lot. Yeah, you don't
Yeah.
have a lot that, it's just a way for them to know. And now, like something that is relatively common now is a lot of companies don't even ask for that, especially for early roles. They just ask, tell us a little bit about yourself in a small form, and they ask for a link to a project you've worked on, and that's it. Right. So I think in most cases it's basically the same, right? But if you were being particularly semantic, resumes, if you were to define them, are slightly shorter, but they often have the same content, right? So, and that's it. So with regards to which one is appropriate to use to apply for a particular position, you apply with whatever they ask, right? So it's almost impossible that you are applying for a position and you just send in whatever you want. No. So when you have a link, there's a job description, then there's a place where they say, hey, this is what you should provide. In some places, maybe some organizations might ask you if you would like to add any other thing. Then in that case, you might wish to put a cover letter, you might wish to put your GitHub profile, you might wish to put in your portfolio, right? And basically that's it. So I would say don't worry about is it a resume, is it a CV, right? Just make sure you are submitting what is appropriate for that role, right? So, for example, if it's a US role, in most cases, know what the format of CV is. What's this US format? What are they looking for? In terms of Europe, it's quite customary that it's just one page, right? Which is quite common in some school, in some countries. So, for example, Portugal, one page CV. Germany, one page CV. In Germany, sometimes if you're applying for a position, you put a role and you put your picture. Right, that is common in Germany that your CV would have your picture. Right, so it's just basic things. You can easily with a search on Google, you can even ask ChatGPT will tell you, hey, a CV in this company is so, which is why I was telling you about researching the company. If you see a company you don't know anything about it, just put it online. Find where the home location is, and for most roles, they will tell you this is a remote role, but our company is based in the New York. It tells you, okay, probably that's where the hiring partner is from, right? So what I tend to see is that people are genuinely very, very lazy about the job application process, right? So if you put in limited effort, then it's more likely that you will not get any outcomes that you're looking for.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think we are running out of time. We'll have had more conversations, but we've also have enough. I mean, a lot of value has been impacted and poured out into this session. And I want to say thank you so much for joining us today and for the experience you've shared, the knowledge you've shared. They have so much appreciated. And I know that a lot of people will pick up this and make judicious use of this information to help in getting their portfolios and going out there to get the job. From now henceforth, I believe with the help of this session you can start applying the right way. You can start going for the key factors that are required for whatsoever you are doing. So if you've not gotten experience at this time, you should know that what you should be going out to get right now is experience. If you have experience, look for a way to document your experience. Look for the format of CV for the jobs you're applying for, and use that format to prepare your CV, right? And don't forget to look out for a company whenever you want to apply for a job. Don't be lazy about it. Try to know what this company is looking for, who they are, and where they are, right? So these are important things that you need to know. Thank you so much. So I don't know if you have, okay, before we end, we we we've been going out here, we've been helping, beginners, uh, early tech beginners and people who are trying to start up their tech career. So this session is actually to help you to get the necessary things that you need and start with the basics. Someone just asked if a degree was important for you to start. So we've had that session before in the past where we discussed extensively what are the core requirements, the things that you need to get started. Of course, degrees are important as you progress in your career. They help you, of course, but when you're talking about getting started, there are factors, there are important factors and things that you need beyond just not just a degree to start. Okay, and degree is not a limitation. So I think for those who are asking these questions, you can go check out some of our previous sessions about starting a tech career with zero experience, and I know you are going to get an answer for that. Okay, so for the past this should be the third month right now that we'll be holding as this session on YouTube. People have been testifying and it has been really, really helpful. So we also give an appreciation to all our speakers and everyone has been joining us. Ayodeji here is one of the people we are appreciating today for coming to join us. So thank you so much. So thank you so much, AY. We appreciate this, that you are trying to help our people out around the world who are trying to find a path in the tech space, right? So also part of what we also offering you right now is a boot camp. So for those who are looking for, you've gotten the knowledge but you don't know how to start and where to start, so we have a free boot camp. So I've been an engineer for years and there are also some other engineers who are joining me to host this boot camp. So it's free of charge, you're not paying anything. All you need to do is, I think I'll drop the link here. I dropped the link before, so join with this link. And if you want to learn any tech skill, if you want to start a tech career specifically with the web development, so you can come here and learn. It's free and it's virtual, so you're not limited with locations, right? So thank you, everyone. Come back here on every Thursday. Our session starts 7 p.m. on Thursday. So come back here, join us every Thursday 7 p.m. Come with your questions, and we're going to be announcing the next topic and the next speakers for the next session. So do well to follow us on our social media handles as well, on LinkedIn, on X, Softzenith, on Facebook, also on Instagram. We're also there, right? And also do well to subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed as well, so that you can get notified whenever we start a session like this. All right. So before I hand over to IODG for the last words, I also want to tell you that you can also follow him. So follow his channels, follow his social media platforms. Also, Bambo is on LinkedIn. Follow Bambo. Follow him, the same name, Ayodeji Daramola at LinkedIn. So do well to follow him. And if you have any question, you can feel free and reach out to him. I know he will give you attention. Thank you so much. Before we end, I want you to just give the last words to everyone hearing us before we can close it for the day.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to be giving back. I think like is it's very important to remember that, like I said, it's there's so many people out there right now in tech, junior, mid senior, senior, with limited opportunities, right? So the opportunities at the lower end of the pyramid is shrinking because AI has allowed more teams to be productive, right? So more than ever, it's important not to lose focus on standing out, actually inventing time and effort into making whatever you are going for possible, right? And I think that if I were to say anybody should remember something, it would be that put the time and effort into making sure that what you're doing is absolutely vital, right? Invest the time. Don't just like take things for granted. Don't just like take things for granted. Actually work at making sure that you put in the time into position, skills, building yourself, and showing how much you're learning. And with that, you'll be fine.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for joining. I mean, you've heard him. I wish you all the best in your career. See you next week, Thursday. Bye.
Awesome.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.